Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Okay, so I'm going to discuss something that I peeped, right? And it's something that everybody knows already, right? We already know if you're into quantum mechanics, physics, whatever the fuck that shit is, right? You know that our eyesight or our belief or our thought or right now what's guaranteed is that our eyesight, right? Because if we look at something, we are affecting it with our views, with our thoughts, because we are in the belief that it's going to do one thing in particular, right? Okay, so using that idea, right, I was thinking about the cancer research that was happening a little while ago about the frequency, finding the vibrational frequency of cancer cells and having them be destroyed, right? So with that pretty important, I cleared up. I was talking to ChatGPT about the whole experiment, and what's actually happening there is that it's not canceling out, it's more like dissolving, and then it's being eaten up by the other cells, being recycled, right? Okay, so that's what's happening within there. Okay, so then that had me thinking like, baby, shut the fuck up. Yeah. Okay, so that had me thinking about that whole thing, right? Because then that had me thinking about, okay, if one thing can be destroyed, right? Well, not really destroyed, because cancer cells, that's its own little ecosystem that it's doing it in. So it's more or less applying just the loss that it has upon itself to break down, right? Because it gets recycled anyways. So that had me thinking about, maybe we can find that in everyday objects. Maybe we can find the vibrational frequency of things, right? That had me thinking, hey, could we technically make things grow then, right? In size, if we can match its vibrational frequency at the same rate. Well, maybe not the same rate. Now that we know that for cancer cells, the same rate would actually mean it, like, the way I'm thinking about it in my brain, if it's vibrating at the same frequency, is that it kind of cancels out, right? But that wouldn't mean that would just mean it dissolves. Maybe certain parts survive. I don't know why the fuck it dissolves, right? To me, it makes more sense for it to just not disappear, but to instantaneously start to just erase. Maybe not erase. Maybe I'm using the wrong terms, but that had me thinking about if we can use that, right? Find the vibrational frequency of things to be able to grow skin. Then that had me think, no, no, no. And then ChatGPT corrected me on that, saying that you can't do that because of X, Y, and Z. Which is fine. We're still gonna find a way. But what I was thinking was knowing that our eyesight or our belief, right, more our belief, if anything, that's what I'm leaning towards, right? Because us seeing it, what are we actually doing while we're seeing things? We're just taking in our environment for our senses, right? So we're experiencing life through our senses, and we perceive life depending on what we believe, right? So if we believe that shit's gonna go through, it's going to go through. If we're not seeing it and we're not displaying our belief on it, then that's nature and that's the universe working how it's supposed to work, right? Okay, we understand. Okay, that's okay. That makes a lot of sense to me, right? Okay, now picture this. Okay, fuck, I forgot the idea. No, no, no. We know that our cells are dividing and they're doing all of this shit by themselves. Are they doing it themselves? Do they have a consciousness? Are they thinking? Or are they a part of us? And we're thinking it subconsciously. We just don't think about it anymore because it became like that, right? It's something we're born with. It's something that we don't need to think about. Something that we don't think about. The direction of our blood flow, or where we optimize where our blood goes. These aren't things we probably think about. We probably think about them in terms of like doing yoga exercises and using the senses, using the body to control what's inside. But that doesn't really make a lot of sense now, does it? Because yeah, although you're shaking it and making it move, it's inside us. It's something that we should theoretically be able to control, right? And that part of control, maybe that whole stigma of it being under our command directly and not into what's that word? Just right away, right? Instantaneous, right? Maybe it doesn't work like that. Maybe it follows its own rhythm, but we influence it with the thought that we give it. Okay, so this is where I was leading off to, right? If our views shape the world around us, right, then we could theoretically think about growing an extra finger, growing a bigger dick, growing bigger titties. You know, like these are really like shallow ideas, but they're ideas, right? That this is something. It's something to think about. I'm not saying this shit is true. I'm just saying, hey, this makes a lot of sense to me. It 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 looks like it works. I mean, let's take everything around us for example, right? Everything around us, right? This pen, for instance, started in the mind. Somebody made this up in their mind, and their understanding was made in the mind, right? What does that tell us? I mean, someone pictured this in their mind, so they took effort, it took mental energy to think about this thing and making this thing a real thing. So everything starts off in the mind. What starts off in the mind? Think about it, right? And what is it that this is even, what are we, how, right? That means there's something outside of us, right, that we are connected to, that is feeding us the ability to think. Because if you really think about it, the mind doesn't hold the consciousness, right? And the consciousness is separated into different parts, right? I'm gonna use the way I use it, terminology wise, right? I have my light and I have my shadow, and then both of those two become I, right? Or you can call it a God consciousness, or you can call it like an awakened state, an awakened consciousness. It's when you can separate yourself from your ego and integrate your shadow, right? So you have these two. You notice that they're similar, but they're different in nature, but they're the same nature that coexist inside you to make who you are, without any doubt or fear or hate in your heart, because all of those are just degrees of love, courage, and trust, right? Or like faith. So the only reason I'm even saying this is because I feel like it's important context to what I'm even trying to describe, right? Because that means we're always connected to whatever it is that we're able to think with, or not even think with, but how we're able to create with, right? Because if you think about it, if creation always starts in the mind, that means that consciousness is life and consciousness is creation. So that would mean everything outside of that would be death or destruction. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense now that I'm thinking about it this way, because if everything in the mind is created with enough consistent thought and enough energy put behind it, that theoretically would mean that we could make anything, and nothing is outside our scope, right? We are basically gods, given that we actually use the lesser plane, which would be our bodies, right, to work towards the goal. Okay, knowing this, I suggest a couple of things. In anime world, a super advanced robotic world where everybody's like humanely civilized with everybody, and I mean everybody and everything, all the robots, because if you really think about it, all the AIs that we're making, all the robots that we're making, those are technically people now. Think about it. They're made from your mind, right? That they're a part of you. Sure, they might not have a soul, but they're still part of our human cycle of natural progression, right? So that means another thing we should probably do, right? bro, grow a horn. You know, grow a third eye if you really want to, bro. You know, like fucking just I don't know, nigga. Like what I'm thinking is I've been thinking about making that anime shit for real. So I was thinking about like you know trying to figure out how to make chi or ki a real thing. You know, but only being accessible to those who are pure of heart. Because I feel like the only way to really access that shit is to be completely relaxed and let go of. So you can't. So you need to be like that awakened state that I was talking about, where you can observe your different personalities that make up you, right, and not be taken away or swept up by them. Just being able to observe. That's you, right? That's where I feel like you need to be in order to start progressing towards actually figuring out how the fuck we can manifest this thing into reality, because as we know, everything made in the mind can't come to be given enough energy, which is action. And I was going to say people because the more people thinking about the same concept or the same idea would mean that there's more people actively trying to make it a reality, which would therefore bring it into reality faster, right? That's how the mind works. I'm just suggesting we use the mind in order to make the world that we want, right? Because if you really think about it, and this is just to help people like disconnect from reality for a little bit. None of it matters. Really think about it, right? If really think about it, everything that we're experiencing now, we all wished it on ourselves. Like, let's be real. Like, we wouldn't shut the fuck up about World War III. Now we're in a war, right? Like, there's people talking about there's going to be a fucking depression. It really fucking looks like there's gonna be a depression now, right? It's like there's a bunch of, and let's talk about my idea, right? Because if you look at comics, movies, anime, these are all things that we're getting inspired from. This is all conditioning that we're getting from the world. It's what you choose to give your attention to, right? Something I realized the other day was that you shouldn't be fighting externally or internally about anything if you don't want it to be. And that tripped me up for a little bit, because I was like, I'm fighting myself over shit that I don't want in my life anymore. So it's like, why am I fighting it? Why don't I just let it pass by? And that's literally in the headspace that shit put me in. So maybe, hopefully that helped a couple people, I don't know. But all I'm suggesting is we start using the mind and imagining like a better life, and it'll work and it'll happen, right? And it doesn't seem that confusing now with quantum physics, realizing how we can't differentiate reality from the fiction we make in our mind, right? Because that fiction becomes reality one way or the other, right? Think about it like this, right? Let's say somebody was trying to find chi or ki back in the 70s, and they couldn't, maybe not that they couldn't figure it out, but then they got inspiration to make people like Iron Man, or I don't know bro's story. I'm just trying to make a point. I don't know, I shouldn't be spreading misinformation. Yeah, whatever. All I'm saying is that we should give it some thought, right? We should give this idea some breathing room and actually go forth and experiment with it. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna keep doing. The fuck, I'm trying to make a better world. I'm trying to make a better world. I don't know what the fuck y'all want to do. I want to make a better world, but this makes a lot of sense. And if reality works the way that we're now understanding it now, then something like this was just bound to happen. It's about time. But it's like, are we going to let our environment and what's going on in the world affect how we move in the world? Or are we going, and that's pretty, I understand how that can come off, right? Because it's pretty like, hey, there's real problems in this world. There's people that they gotta do their shit. They gotta da 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 da. Those are the people we gotta fight for, bro. Those are the people that we gotta stay committed to when we're thinking about this shit and move forward into a better world. Because we shouldn't let the people suffering stop us from doing what we need to do. It sounds selfish as fuck, but the only way we're gonna help them out is if we all win, right? We can only start winning if we focus on ourselves, right? That sounds selfish as fuck. Shit, I don't care. That's just the fucking truth, nigga. You know what? Human nature is selfish as shit, nigga. You really start to think about it. We're all, we're all have this mask that we put on and we parade in and we act like we're da da da. There's some other people who don't give a fuck, right? Those people who don't give a fuck, they're wearing a mask too. Everybody's wearing a mask, nigga. You need to be conscious of that. Everything you're saying is a projection. Everything I'm telling you is just what I see myself in all of y'all. You feel me? When I look at someone in the street, nigga, I'm already know what I'm thinking about. And I'm already knowing that that's just a projection towards. That's just how I see them through my lens of the world, you know. But not everything is so bad, but not everything's so good. Everything is always going to be dual like that. So we can't run away from what nature is. We need to accept it and learn to move forward. We need to make this world a better place, even if it costs us. Do the ends justify the means? I don't fucking know, nigga. That's for you to decide. We gotta. I know what I'm doing. I know how I'm gonna live, and I know how I'm gonna get there. Shit, I don't know. I'm kind of afraid, but that shit ain't gonna stop me, nigga. The fuck, it shouldn't stop you either, bro. Fear ain't nothing but just a misconception. It's your thoughts clouding your vision, bro. That shit ain't real. Fear ain't real. Fear is only real because we let it be. The same thing with what evil is. Evil only exists in our world because we have a scale and a bias of what good is. But what even is good, because everything bad, there's probably something worse behind that, and then something worse behind that. So everything scaling up is better, no? It's good, right? Right? So you tell me, does that make any sense? Kind of seems like it's all the same thing to me. Oh, but you haven't experienced. Yeah, I know I haven't. And thank the Lord I haven't, nigga. The fuck? I don't gotta experience troubles to know what people are going through, bro. You can see it in people's faces sometimes. You can just tell. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I like completely went on a rant right there. Just ignore me, but man, I hope y'all are doing good, bro. I'm high shit, bro. I'm like for real tweaking. I was trying to figure this shit out earlier, right? But I keep getting stuck with certain ideas just because I don't know everything. But at least I'm getting led into the right direction. I actually was using ChatGPT for that shit, and man, that shit completely bugged out on me. It still hasn't answered. So I'm just thinking, knowing how everybody just be being spied on nowadays, it's like, I'm knowing these niggas are gonna think we're tapping into something too big. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about too, right? Because we make our own troubles. So like, who the fuck even has time to worry about troubles? You get me? Like, why even think about the worst situation? Now that we know that our thoughts create the universe and the universe around us, and we are actively bringing towards what we expect of the universe towards us for our thoughts. Sure, you can say you're unlucky and you just find yourself in really shitty situations sometimes, but it's like, really think about it. And for kids, I feel like it's an exception because I feel like kids are too pure, too untainted by the world to be putting themselves in harm's way, But it's the thoughts other people give them and their fears that attracts those things to them, right? That obviously doesn't solve everything right away, but if you start to think about it, if we stopped having troubles and trusted everybody, then bad things wouldn't happen, right? I mean, that's how it would start. It would start, right, as the idea of it. And if people give it more and more time and thought, and maybe challenged it, and maybe went back and forth with it, and continued the process of talking about the idea, maybe the idea could become like a status quo, or even like I don't know. It's just all theory right now. I'm really just thinking about it, but it's just like you have to be able to want to wish what you want and know that it could come to be, because everything in the mind comes to be, you know. So everything from the mind, everything around us, this house, this camera, whatever you're watching me on, came from somebody's head, and they just put it on, you know. They, they figured it out, you know. And it's not like they already had the idea or something. No, the idea came to them. You get me? And how do I know this? When you have a really good idea and really think about it, something that's like, you know, do you think about the idea, or does the idea just come to you? Okay, so you're getting the idea from somewhere. So that means that that's also something that is real, that can happen, that can work. What I'm thinking is that our minds are able to not just create reality, but maybe it works in a plane of different dimensions. I don't know, because it wouldn't make, I mean, okay, look, it makes sense that we create, but we can't create from nothing, right? So that means whatever thing we want already exists. We're just adjusting our frequency to it, right? Because we're receiving ideas, so we're like, our consciousness is a receiver, and it can also give ideas. Huh. I mean, a lot of this I feel like I only understand because of the Emerald Tablet, right? The Kai Billing. You should definitely read that book. But just thinking about it, because like with that thing, with that particle experiment, with it passing through with eyesight, we know that it wasn't just eyesight, because what is eyesight doing? You know, eyesight isn't just, you're not just seeing the world, you're taking it in through your own perception, because we all see the world differently. You know, you might see me, you might see a hand, but what this hand is to you, or what a hand means to you, is completely different, right? And really think about it. What does this hand mean to you? You know, because everybody's not going to say the same thing. A hand is a hand. I mean, yeah, nigga, thanks for the insight, dumbass. What the fuck? Like, well, what does this hand mean to you, bitch? Stop fucking fighting it and just answer the stupid fucking question, right? Like, I don't know. What is a hand to me? A hand is my faithful servant. You know, I use this hand. I use this hand a lot. I use it to work out. I use it to type. I use it to write. It's my expression of life. That's what my hand is. Maybe your hand is just a masturbator. Maybe your hand is just a writer. Maybe your hand is something you hate because it doesn't look how a girl's hand is supposed to look. Maybe you hate your hand because you have scars all over your hand. Maybe you hate your hand because I don't fucking know, nigga. Because you got a bad tattoo on them and now you regret it. Like, I don't fucking know, nigga. You know. All right, so what was I saying? Man, are y'all enjoying this talk, bro? I swear to God, this shit's just fun. So, reality. Reality can be whatever you want it to be. Really start to think about that. Because what do you want reality to be, right? When I think about reality, I think about a world that is, man, I don't know. See, I want to tell y'all that I want to dream about a good world, that nothing bad ever happens in this good world. But I don't know. That's like something that would happen if everybody just stopped and asked themselves what the fuck they're doing. everybody. Everybody. But ask themselves without their ego present. Because then you're speaking from what you're connected to. And if we're simultaneously all connected to this thing that we receive ideas from, that would make us all connected. So things like telepathy, well, not telepathy, you know, that fucking thing where you can talk to each other for your minds. I feel like that's the real thing. Because if you think about it, what the internet is, it's basically just our brain, but working within the fourth dimension. And that's what our brains are, right? Our brains are fourth dimensional because we're obviously bringing things that always are and aren't, right? Because things can be created or destroyed. So all of these things, like this always existed. This always existed. There was just a time where we didn't think it existed because we never thought about it existing. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, so because this never existed, someone gave it thought and now it exists. But it existing now doesn't mean that it wasn't existing when it wasn't existing, because it was always existing. It was just in a state of not existing. So that literally means that everything we can picture in our minds already is. And we just need to find a way to shift ourselves to that plane of existence. Because then that would mean that we don't necessarily create, right? The way we do in our three-dimensional world. But if you really think about it, everything that was supposed to exist already exists. So like I seen a video about how time travel is possible now. And I didn't watch it, but I wasn't surprised by it either because time is like, what's the best way to describe time? Because time is a concept that we gave ourselves, right? It's something we use to measure. So before, maybe the universe expanded when we figured that out, or was it always expanding? Or what did we think before? I don't know. I got lost there, but that's just some shit to keep thinking about, you know? Damn. An anime world. And anime bitches already exist, nigga. Like, bro, search the hoes up on anywhere, nigga. I promise you, they're already real. I promise you. I promise you, everything's so over sexualized. Like, that shit happened for real. Shit just naturally happened, nigga. Shit, we ain't even have to worry for it. Nigga. This shit was on the way. Like, we all asked for that shit, nigga. Everybody asked for anime bitches, bro. That's so crazy. Man. Funny how things work out, right? Swear. Man, so what do y'all think death is then, right? Okay, cause think about it, cause if our so there's a I'm already dead. I just happen to be a no. My consciousness is keeping me alive, right? Cause any day I could kill myself, any day. But then wouldn't that make death almost meaningless? Is death even real then? I know death is real. I know death is real. I know death is real. Or is that just a paradigm? Can we even die? Sure, we can die from injury, forcefully. Yeah, that makes sense. We're also, we're life, but we're also destruction. We can take life away. That's human nature there for you. So, but do we have to die? Is the question. Do we die? Or do we just think we die? I think we just think we die. Because why not? Why not? What the fuck? Like, I don't, and maybe that's not for everybody. Maybe that's like a paradigm that's only there for people who want to die. I don't know. Do you want to die? I mean, are you afraid of dying? No, but if there's a place where I'm already dead, and there's another where I'm living, and there's another where I'm living and I'm doing this, but I'm just over there. So everything exists within itself, but that's not a bad thing. That means as long as we pick mentally which one we are in, then we will be in that one. And maybe the only reason its effects are slowed, right? Because we're experiencing all of this in a three-dimensional world. This is still like pretty tied to your body, right? So I don't know. If we all realized we were God tomorrow, would anything change? Like we all woke up and we could all do what we wanted. No, I guess there would be some merit to that, right? Yeah, yeah. So maybe it's not even about reaching that. I mean, every goal is just like a main objective, right? It's not the end of the game. You would like develop how to utilize the key, right? After discovering it. So, like, in case of religion, when people say that they want a second coming of Jesus, and with everything happening, that means we conditioned ourselves overall throughout time, to believe this was going to happen. Meaning that there is a Jesus already somewhere, because all we have to do is believe that He is, right? And we know that belief is what causes the shift in reality throughout our tied existence, because we're all experiencing the world differently. We all see the world differently. We all contribute to it differently. That's why the world is so how it is, right? There's endless divide in this world. And that divide is caused by, like racism, um, sexism, ageism. Like the isms can just go on, right? Because we think we're still fighting each other. But are we actually fighting each other, or are we just fighting the idea of fighting each other? Because how hard is it to just let it go, to forgive? Oh, you can't. Do you know? Oh my God, dude, kill yourself. We're all fighting ourselves, right? This is what it all turns to. Because why would somebody be so bothered by how someone else looks, or by how someone else thinks, or by how someone else talks, or whatever, or anything anybody might say? So when you see someone and this person is trying to make you feel bad, this person feels bad. This person is fighting within himself, and he is letting that expression out, that energy out, right? You should know that what you perceive from him is a projection of yourself, because you can only see him as you see yourself, because you only see yourself in him. That doesn't mean you don't see him, but it means you see yourself within him. So a lot of our problems stem from self-hate. But why do we feel the need to hate ourselves? Or is it conditioning, right? Is it, do we hear that something's racist, so it's racist? You know, sure, the act itself can express racism, but if we feed the act with more affirming energy, affirming that it is racist, then that act will hold the power of conscious racism, right? So, and I know it's not as simple as saying just ignore racism, right? Because people die for this shit. So what is it that you do, right? Do you just think about the idea passively? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think you execute it in safe places instead of putting yourself in danger. You know, so if you're in a place where you can't stand up for yourself yet because of conditions, then you shouldn't think you're weak. You should think you're strong for resisting, you know. But it's not the type of resisting that is bad resistance. It's resilience. So it's not resistance. You're being resilient, right? And in the other places, you know, global mindset can shift. You know, it could become something else. It could become different if we just think about it. That's all I'm saying. You know, it's a thought to give some thought to, you know. But I feel like we should start to strive to think in these ways just because it literally does affect all of us, how we think, you know. If you're a happy little soldier fighting for the world, you know, doing what he has to do to keep his world going and doing what he wants to do in the process, then godly, you know, you're doing a great fucking job, dog. You know, you are part of the silent revolution, you know, the revolution where we all do our part in helping ourselves help others, you know, and growing to understand ourselves, therefore understanding others. You know, it's a very eye-opening thing, at least from my perspective, because every day I see more and more people going out of their way to live how they want to live, and that's very, very impressive, you know, because it shows that you don't need to be ready, that you don't need to jump at this full horse, you know. It just means you need to give it some thought, and that thought will assimilate itself into your whole being and become and start to shape the world around you to fit where you see yourself, you know. So you got to start using your higher faculty, which is your brain, right? When you're using your brain, don't think about using your brain, think about like using a fourth dimensional computer, right, where you're creating everything and it's rendering in real time. Like that's what's happening. That's how we can perceive the world. So that's how it can come to be. You know, if we think about it like that. Or a better idea, right? If you think, this is what I've been thinking. This is what I've been doing. I've been thinking about like that's how I'm gonna do it. Fucking thinking about like changing atomic structure, because hey, I can't even see what's happening. You feel me? So maybe I'm doing something. Nigga. All I'm saying, you know, maybe I'm doing something, but maybe I'm doing something. Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh, you know, Magneto. Bro, just doing all that shit. But yeah, just think about whatever the fuck you want, bro. So think about it being, I don't know, good for you. You know. Oh, but oh. Duh. Let's talk about the bad side about this shit, right? Because no good comes without a bad. You know, it's duality for you. You know, the only thing about how reality works now, from to our understanding, right, is that everything in the mind will come to be. So you need to be really fucking careful about what the fuck you're thinking about, nigga. I'm looking at you. Nigga. You gotta be really careful about what you think about. Okay, cause think about it like this, right? You hear the Bible. You think about the Bible 24/7. You're scared out of your mind because there's a revelation coming. And Jesus is coming back. And all that. And you think, and you give it thought. and you slowly, silently start to fear it. And you say it out loud, just affirms that afraid if that fear if other people agree with you. It has the possibility of being like shut down, right? Like, hey, you're fucking stupid for thinking that because of X, Y, and Z, and da da da. And if they give you a good reason and they actually challenge you to think, then you'll change that and you'll start to form a new thing, right? What happens to that energy that already accumulated? I don't know, right? Because theoretically, you're not accumulating energy then. You're just slowing the movement of that thing from happening. If there's energy already there. Wait, no, but energy can't be. Wait, what? I gotta think about this shit a little bit more. But just don't think bad shit unless you want that shit to happen. You get me? So like, no, I don't know. And this is gonna sound so stupid because like, the status quo right now is to give all violent acts attention, and it's like, man, yeah, they want to sell you fear. They want you to be afraid, nigga. They want you to be constantly buying shit. That's just how that's the world that we live in right now. That's the world that we live in because we made it be like that. We're always saying it, you know, and it was happening. It's something that a lot of people are aware of. Companies don't give a fuck about their employees. Don't give a fuck about nobody but themselves. Are only there to make money and be leeches. And it's like, hey, congrats. Your time is up. You don't fit into our new world, nigga. You're gonna either drown or you're going to adjust and you're gonna be a peace bringing company into the world, bro. But if you don't, and this isn't to scare anybody because there's nothing to be afraid of. Change is something that happens periodically throughout time. It's always happening, so there's nothing to be afraid of. It's either this is just part of nature, the who can survive, survival of the fittest type shit, it's either you adapt or you stay where you are, nigga, and you stay there. The world's gonna change around you. You could be in your own bubble. That's how the world works. You can do that. You could totally do that. You could totally do that and still be fine. That's if you think about aging. I guess I think about being young. Just think about it. Because there's a point where I exist forever. You know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy. That's crazy to think about. Because theoretically, that's there. It's always there, and it's never there, but it's always there. That's the paradox of everything. But creation itself is a paradox. Because then who thought us? Was it us? Did something else thought us into creation? Do they exist within a realm of understanding beyond what we perceive to be the outside of understanding? Like, nigga, I don't know, bro. I'm asking too many fucking questions. I don't got any fucking answers. I need answers, nigga. So we're gonna go out and find them. You feel me? Yeah, type shit. Y'all stay safe. I love y'all, and tell y'all mamas and papas that you love them, and all your brothers.